There is a certain magic in finding potential where others see an ending. It is the art of perceiving a second life, a hidden song, waiting within something that has already served its primary purpose. And perhaps no other material embodies this philosophy quite so perfectly as the humble pallet. These rough, unassuming structures, born of pure utility, crisscrosses the globe carrying the weight of commerce, only to be often cast aside, their journey seemingly complete. But for those with a patient eye and a feeling for wood, this is not the end. This is where the real story begins, the story of the pallet wood sleigh. Imagine it, a sleigh, that most nostalgic of winter symbols, not carved from a fresh blank plank in a workshop, but reborn from wood that is already rich with history. Each board tells a silent tale of its former life. There are the gentle scuffs and scars, the faint stains of unknown cargo, the subtle imperfections left by ropes and forklifts. These are not flaws to be sanded away into oblivion, but rather a patina of purpose, a texture earned through a life of labor. To build a sleigh from this wood is not merely an act of construction. It is an act of translation, of taking the language of industry and rewriting it into a poem of whimsy and warmth. The process itself is a conversation with the material. You are not starting with a blank slate, but with a collaborator that has its own will, its own story. The first task is to gently dismantle this collaborator, carefully prying apart the boards, often revealing the hidden, brighter wood underneath, where the weather never reached. Then comes the patient work of revealing the soul beneath the surface. As you plane away the topmost layer of grime and roughness, the true character of the wood emerges. It might be the deep, resinous scent of pine, or the open, rustic grain of oak. You never quite know what you'll find, and that is part of the charm. This wood was not chosen for its perfection, but for its presence. And what emerges from this process is an object that feels both timeless and entirely unique. The shape of the sleigh is a curve of pure nostalgia, a line that speaks of snowy hills and the quiet jingle of bells. But the wood itself grounds this fantasy in something tangible and real. This is not a sleigh from a sanitized fairy tale. It is a sleigh from a lived-in world. The variations in the boards, some light, some dark, some with knots that look like tiny old galaxies, create a tapestry of texture that no stain or paint could ever hope to replicate. It has a folk art soul, a feeling that it was crafted not just for decoration, but to capture a feeling. The beauty of this transformation lies in its versatility. One sleigh might be left in its raw, reclaimed state. Its grayed, weathered wood speaking of old barns and frosty mornings, a tribute to the quiet beauty of age. Another might be gently sanded and treated with a clay oil, allowing the warm honey tones of the pine to glow. Each scar and nail hole celebrated as a mark of character. Yet another could be painted a crisp matte black, not to hide the texture but to frame it, so that the scratches and grain patterns become a subtle, sophisticated relief against the dark field. The runners, perhaps, could be accented with a band of aged copper or a strip of blackened steel, a touch of metal that echoes the hardware of its past life while elevating its new form. This is where the piece finds its place in a home, a pallet wood sleigh. It is never just an object, it is a vessel of memory and for season. In the depths of winter, it becomes a centerpiece, cradling a collection of pine cones and cinnamon-scented candles, a soft blanket ready for an evening by the fire. It is a still life of comfort, a promise of warmth against the cold outside. But its life need not be confined to December. In the spring, it could hold a cascade of terracotta pots filled with herbs. In the autumn, it becomes a harvest basket for goods and dried wheat. It is a shape so inherently joyful that it carries the joy throughout the turning of the year. It becomes more than a holiday decoration. It is a testament to the idea that our homes can be filled with objects that have a conscience, pieces that whisper of sustainability and thoughtful creations. It connects us to a slower, more deliberate way of living, one where we see the potential for grace and charm in the most unexpected places. In this idea of transformation and finding beauty in the rough and the reclaimed, what speaks to you the most? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So until next time, happy decorating.